G'day my fellow media collectors, I'm Troy and today we are looking at Disney's first attempt at a live action superhero movie. Yes, right before Iron Man, Captain America, the Avengers and even the Incredibles. Disney tried to crack the superhero market way back in the early 80s. And what was this movie, you ask? Well, it was the one and only. Yes, Condorman is a superhero comedy film that was produced by Walt Disney Productions and was released into theatres on the 2nd of July 1981 in the UK, but then later in the US on the 8th of August 1981. This was Disney's first live-action superhero movie and was notable for being a creative risk for the studio, though sadly the film performed poorly at the box office and Disney reportedly lost $9.5 million on the picture. This DVD has a runtime of 91 minutes. It was first released on DVD on the 18th of May 1999 and it was distributed by Anchor Bay. This film follows Woody Wilkins, an eccentric American comic book artist who dreams of becoming a real-life superhero. When his friend in the CIA asks him to complete a minor mission in Paris, Woody agrees, on the condition he can do it as his comic book creation, Condorman. This simple task quickly spirals into a high-stakes adventure as Woody is asked to assist Soviet defector Natalia Rambova in escaping her ruthless hander Krokov. Armed with homemade gadgets and a winged glider suit, Woody bumbles his way through spy chases and dangerous encounters, becoming an unlikely hero as he attempts to outwit Krokov and rescue Natalia. This movie's script delivers a unique and mostly flawed mix of superhero comedy and Cold War spy thriller, creating a campy adventure-filled ride that manages to have both charm and cringe at the same time. At the heart of the story, it is genuinely an inventive premise with a comic book artist getting the chance to live out his superhero fantasies as the character he created. But what ultimately lets this movie down is its inability to balance its tone as the film tries to be both spy thriller and superhero spoof, and the tonal shifts between comedy and spy thriller aren't always seamless and can be very clunky at times. The Cold War spy plot, while adding some stakes to the movie, just feels cliched and underdeveloped, with our heroes and our villains alike all falling into this one-dimensional caricatures rather than fully formed characters. The script and its story is enjoyable for those willing to embrace its quirky and retro campy appeal, but this also leaves Condorman as a lovable oddity rather than a universally memorable classic. The movie struggles to find what it wants to be, either a spy thriller or a superhero spoof. And look, from all accounts, that was the main reason this didn't really connect with audiences at the cinema. And for that, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 30. Now, the film was not based on a comic book, but was instead actually loosely based off a novel called The Game of X by Robert Sheckley. Although the book was not a superhero story as such, in its adaptation by Disney, they decided to really amp up the superhero, comic and action elements, transforming it into this unique mix of comedy and espionage, shall we say. Now, what can we say about this costume? It is very much in that campy, over-the-top, vibrant color, Batman 66 inspired type of outfit. Now look, don't get me wrong, the costume, well, it kind of suits the film to a degree. It's going, like, that's what it's going for, but for me, it's just a little bit over the top. You know what they say, sometimes less is more, if you know what I mean. Also, one thing I want to mention is the transfer from the old film to DVD. Let's just say, ooh, it's not the best at all. Now, look, given this release was done way back in the early stages of DVD, there was no sort of remastering or touching up of the films at that time. So to say it looks like it just got copied from an old VHS tape is pretty spot on.
The quality of the transmission is very poor.
Now the cast, which is only quite small, consisting of just 8 main characters throughout the film, but it does have some familiar faces you might remember from the 80s. Starting with our main star of the movie, Michael Crawford as Woody Wilkins. Now Crawford at this time was really known for his role as Frank Spencer in the sitcom Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, and this was his first attempt at a big screen role. Crawford tries his best to bring some enthusiasm to the character, but his performance often feels more grating than charming.
God, this is already hard to watch.
The character's one-note personality and exaggerated silliness makes him difficult to root for, if you know what I mean, especially as he stumbles his way through situations without truly growing or evolving as a character. Now, Barbara Carrera as Natalia Rambova. Look, she does her best to add some depth to her character, but she is given really little to work with. Natalia exists mainly as a love interest and a plot device, and the lack of chemistry between her and Crawford makes their romance subplot feel a little hollow and forced at times.
There was absolutely no chemistry.
Oliver Reed as the villain Krokov channels a real Bond-esque menace, but the film's inconsistent tone, it really undermines his performance, and the cartoonish nature of the film makes him seem, well, really out of place, which is really sad considering he's such a good actor.
So how in the hell did he end up here?
And last but not least is James Hampton as Harry Oslo. He adds a likeable, supportive presence as he plays the classic straight man to Crawford's silly character, offering moments of humour as he reacts to Woody's antics with exasperation and disbelief at times. So with this, it's, how can we put it? It's a real missed opportunity, some misguided choices, and some little bit of that campy charm there as well. And look, all I can give it is a 7 out of 20. Okay, as we look at the case, as you can see, that is, it's a Disney family classic. They pumped a few of these out back in the day, and as you can see, it's just the movie poster on the front, nothing new, nothing different, just the classic poster from the 80s. Now, if we look at the side there, again, nothing special. I think if you get a lot of those classic ones together, they all sort of look the same. Now, if we look at the back, very basic. There's not a lot going on there. Very simple indeed. And what can I say? Not a lot of effort put into it. It's just slapped together. Now, if we look at the disc, yep, as you can imagine, it's just a copy of the front cover. Nothing different yet again. So look, it is about as basic as you're going to get. It's pretty much just thrown together to pump it out with the rest of them. Not a lot of thought put into it, and for that, that's where I'm going to go with and say a 4 out of 10. So look, there are no special features on this disc at all. As you can see, it is just the movie, and that is it, which, let's face it, is pretty commonplace for these Disney classic releases, as I don't think they really had behind the scenes featurettes in mind back in the very early 80s when they made this movie, kind of like they do now, where they love their special features. So look, as there was nothing really to put on there, and there is nothing here, well, it comes down to the fact that I can only give it a 0 out of 10. As I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critic score is 25%, while the audience score came in at 65%. Look, this score from the critics is totally understandable, as they don't pull any punches when they are reviewing this film in the comments. But for the audience, for the most part, the reviews are mostly from people who really remember it fondly watching it as a kid. And of course, that's where those higher scores come from. That nostalgia. And let's face it, nostalgia can be a very powerful thing. Anyway, if we're gonna round it out, gosh, I can't believe it gets this. It's going to get a score of 5 out of 10. Look, I can't say I actually watched this when it came out back in the day, but as time has gone on, I've had some curiosity as to what, if anything, this movie actually has to offer. All I got was a misguided attempt at a superhero spy comedy that ultimately misses the mark on nearly every level. The film suffers from a weak script, an uneven tone, and a lackluster execution that leaves it feeling like a clumsy intimidation of better spy adventures and superhero films of the same time. While the premise of a comic book artist who decides to become his own superhero is interesting, the film never quite manages to make good on its potential, instead drowning in its overly campy gags which fall flat, and the predictable plot points you see coming a mile away. The biggest problem with this film is its light-hearted tone, clashing with its darker Cold War spy elements, leaving it uncertain of what sort of audience it's really aiming for here, with it either being too silly for adult viewers, yet too slow and incoherent for younger audiences. Ultimately, Condorman feels like a real missed opportunity here in many ways, and despite a unique concept with a small amount of charm, the film's weak acting, clunky action, and inconsistent tone prevent it from achieving the adventurous or comedic heights that it was aiming for. So with that, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 20. So let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Let's go to availability, and I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. It is old, but it's still not too hard to find. But there are a few different versions out there, so depending on what you're looking for. Now, collectability, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 as well. This one, it's really become a cult classic, and one for those hardcore Disney fans that like to complete their sets. For superhero fans, yeah, it's definitely one of those nice little oddities to have in your collection. Now, for your average price, you're looking at somewhere between the $20 to $55 mark for DVD. So there is a bit of a price disparity there, so it does pay to shop around if you're looking to get a copy. Now, let's tally up the scores. Now, for the final score, where you get a grand total of 28 out of 100. Well, no surprises there. This movie is really a reminder of what movie studios thought a good superhero movie should be like in the 80s, but which we, the audience, know is not the case, and what ultimately led to this film's demise.
We messed it up, and that's the truth.
Hey, so if you like this video and you want to see some more of my reviews, why don't you click that one there? Maybe you want to see some of my collection updates. Got you covered too. Click that one there. But of course, don't forget to do the most important thing. Throw me a like, and don't forget to hit that subscription button on the way out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.